Well, good afternoon, everyone, or maybe good morning or evening, depending where you're joining us from. Welcome back here to the Launchpad for another live launch coverage today from French Guiana. We are waiting to watch Arianespace launch an Ariane 5 up into geostationary transfer orbit, launching two satellites on board. The MeSat and the New Space India Limited satellite company are the two customers for today. Launching up to 5,600 kilograms. We're waiting for Arianespace to go live here. Once we do, we will patch them in. As it is Arianespace, don't hold your hopes that we're going to see the rocket all too much before we actually have liftoff, but we wanted to still bring this to you. This is the first Ariane 5 launch since the James Webb Space Telescope launched on Christmas Day. So excited to see another one of these liftoff, and the first launch from the French Guiana also since the Russian invasion. So we weren't sure when we were going to see this launch complex come online again, but glad to see another Ariane 5. As we said, this is the first Ariane 5 of 2022, the 113th Ariane 5 mission in the rocket's history, and the 291st mission for Arianespace. This is only the second mission Arianespace has launched in 2022, and we are going already for the 67th orbital launch attempt of 2022 of any space agency. John Fair's Gold Panning School, thank you so much for that super chat of $5. Really appreciate your support. But if it's your first time here, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad, and here at TLP, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together. I see we got people tuning in from all over the world. We got Aiden in Manchester, Alpha in Norway, Ian's in the UK. We got Jay in Halliburton, Ontario. Sorry if I said that wrong. We got Drake in Strasbourg, France. John's in Ashcroft. Great to have you all here. Many others. Let us know in the chat where you're tuning in from. And we are just waiting for Arianespace to get their live stream underway here for today's flight. A little bit of confusion on when this mission was going to be and the timeline. The launch window is from 21:03 to 22:43 UTC. So that window is going to be opening here shortly. So we're just waiting for Arianespace to go live, and that is why we have nothing on our screen, but our communications will start shortly. We are in the midst of a full revamp of our studio, so later today during the stream, you might see some new things on stream that we're going to be trying out, and on the coming streams over the next week or so. We've been working on a bunch of stuff on the back end, and we're super excited to start rolling it out, and that's only thanks to your guys' super chats and memberships that we're able to do so. One thing we wanted to mention, even before you see it on stream, if you become a VIP spectator, member, or higher here at the Launchpad, your name is now going to be on stream, and we're super excited to be rolling that out here. Possibly even today. We'll wait and see if we can make it happen. We're going through some last testing. But if you become a VIP spectator, not only now do you get some behind-the-scenes access, but you can also have your name on screen during our launch coverages. If you're a civilian astronaut or higher, we're going to be rolling out some more on-screen stuff to thank you guys in the near future as well. So lots of new things coming to our streams thanks to your guys' support. That helps us bring you the best possible space coverage around the world. We're expanding our team, and we'll have more to share about that here in the near future as well. But as always, we love answering your guys' questions. So if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat. Just make sure you're tagging us at the Launchpad, and we'll be able to see those questions as we count down towards this possible liftoff time here later today. Normally we wouldn't go live until they start their feed, but we wanted to make sure we were all up and running with the new system before, so that's why we went live at this point. The targeted liftoff time for today's Ariane 5 is 5:03 p.m. Eastern to 6:43 p.m. Eastern. That's the launch window here today, so we are now 1 hour away from the opening of that launch window, which is pretty much right on time for when we normally see an Arianespace stream begin. So we're just waiting for someone on their end to hit the go live button, and hopefully we'll get some live views of the rocket from on the ground. John, thank you so much for that super chat there again. Really, really do appreciate that support. Joel, hello from Fort Worth. Yeah, Fort Worth, Texas. Great to have you here. We got Nige, I believe it is, from the UK. Great to have you as well. People all over the world tuning in. Dalb from Coventry, England. Lots in Europe today. Great to see you. Tees from Pakistan. Stratoblasters in Pennsylvania. We got Ryan in Edmonton. Great to have another Edmontonian in the chat. Good to see you, Ryan. While we wait for this launch to occur and for some live feeds to start again, if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat. They don't have to be specifically related to the Ariane 5 here today, but we can answer those. I see we got one in the chat from T. When do you think Starship will launch? At this point, Elon says Starship will be ready by the end of next month. I think that's Elon timeline. I think realistically worth looking into late August. I think mid to late August at the earliest. But we'll wait to see what happens there. I kind of hope it's really late August, to be honest, or even early September, because it'll make it easier for our teams to cover SLS launching end of August, early September as well. It'd be great to just have our team out in the field for a week, 10 days straight, get two incredible super heavy launches. Would be absolutely amazing to see. So we will be on site. We will have people on site for the launch of SLS and for the launch of Starship. So you know that you'll be able to catch that all here. Today, Kathy's asking what's today's mission for. So today's mission, we'll be launching 2 communication satellites to geostationary orbit. Each satellite will service a region of Asia, one being designed by a company in India and the other designed by a company in Malaysia. The Ariane 5 will take these 2 large payloads to their use of a into orbit, using one of their table adapters. Their table launch configuration comes in 2 different options that they're able to use on the Ariane 5, being able to kill kind of 2 birds with 1 stone by bringing 2 payloads up with only 1 rocket and 1 fairing. So, Marcus, thank you so much for that super chat. How's it going? Great to see you. Thanks for that support. So on board today, we have the MEASAT 3D, which is built by Airbus. It'll be the 57th satellite based on the E3000 satellite platform by Airbus. And it'll be launching into a geostationary orbit at an inclination of 31.5 degrees. Through this orbit, the satellite will be able to service its primary region, which will be Asia and the Pacific. The MEASAT has the capability throughout Malaysia to provide broadband service with up to 100 megabytes per second in areas where there is little to no connectivity from Earth-based systems. In addition, it'll be able to provide high-definition HD, 4K, and 8K video to that region. And then the GSAT-24 is another communication satellite. This one's built by the Indian Space Research Organization for the New Space India Limited organization. This satellite will include high quality video, telecommunications, and broadcasts to all of India. And the satellite will be demand driven, meaning that it will increase its functionality as more customers are needing to require it. So that's what we'll be waiting to see here. If you're just joining us, welcome. We are just waiting for Arianespace to get their live feeds up and running on what we're going to be able to watch here today, where they'll be launching an Ariane 5 from the French Guiana in South America, the first Ariane 5 to launch since the James Webb Space Telescope on December 25th. So we're taking some time to answer your questions. The launch window is now about 55 minutes away from the opening of the launch window, but we still do have some time until that launch window lasting over an hour. So if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat, and we will be answering those live. There will be a view of the pad. There will be a view of the pad there, Drew. Don't you worry. We will have a view for liftoff here. Arianespace looks like running behind on starting up their feeds here. We normally go live to kind of get everything up and running, get our intros running, and all that. But at this time, we are still waiting on them to be actually up and running. So we apologize for that delay here. Working to see if we can find anything on kind of what's going on, why there's a delay. Make sure everything's good with the rocket as well. So bear with us just a brief moment. Arianespace has confirmed, though, their Ariane 5 has been filled with cryogenic liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen, and is set to launch in less than an hour, carrying the 2 satellites. So they still are on track for liftoff less than an hour from now. So we're just waiting for them to actually kind of kick off their stream here. At T-minus 52 minutes, this was confirmed just less than a minute ago, that both the first and second stages are fully fueled with their cryogenic propellants. The 17.7-foot diameter first stage Vulcan 2 engine is all ready to go to liftoff, consuming over 14.7 metric tons of propellant during its flight. And there we go. Jay asked, what's the fuel for this rocket? We answered it without even seeing that question. It is liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. Hey, Fairground, good to see you. That's awesome, John. That's a great way of doing it. Live feed coming shortly here, Bradley. Again, if you're just joining us, welcome. We're counting down T-minus about 50 minutes and counting until the expected liftoff of today's Ariane 5, launching from the French Guiana in South America. We're just waiting for Arianespace to actually click start their stream. Maybe a situation of they think it's live, but they actually aren't. I know we've done that a few times here. So we're keeping an eye, but both their English and their French streams are not online at this time. So the moment one of those do go live, we will patch them in with those live views as we await for liftoff. But everything looking good. Weather's looking good for today's flight as well. So we are keeping an eye on that. Question from Dalabui. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Let me know in the chat how to say it. Ariane 6, is it still set to launch sometimes next year? When and carrying what? We are still expecting to see an Ariane 6 launch possibly next year. They're working on the launch complex right now as well as the rocket. So we do have that still planned. Right now, we're expecting it to be in the first half of 2023, and it will be carrying multiple rideshare payloads. So there'll be at least 6 or 7 of those going into low Earth orbit. We expect to see up to 8 in 2023, and then another 4 already scheduled for 24, and then we've got one scheduled actually all the way into 2035 for the Ariane 6. There's also 18 Ariane 6s booked to launch Project Kuiper, which is Amazon's internet constellation, and they'll be launching 35 to 40 satellites at a time. So right now there are well over 40 missions already booked on the Ariane 6, with a big chunk of them starting off in 2023 should everything go nominally. And it looks like they have started up their stream here, so we're going to patch that in here now. Not exactly what we were hoping for, but that is a live view of the rocket at least. So we are looking at that live feed here of the rocket as we wait for them to begin their commentary coverage. But we can see that rocket being prepared to launch out at Launch Complex 3 at the French Guiana Launch Complex at the Guiana Space Flight Center, ELA 3. On board are 2 satellites going up to geostationary orbit. Geostationary transfer orbit today in the first Ariane 5 launch of 2022. Really great question for the from dominant. Why is India launching their satellite on an Ariane 5 if they have the ISRO? So the ISRO is still testing their rockets. It's not a guaranteed launch at this time. It's still a test vehicle technically. So they want to launch some stuff and be guaranteed in orbit. So they look at a reliable rocket, and Ariane 5 is one of those there. Marcus makes a good point. You would think Amazon would buy Blue Origin to launch their internet satellites, but it is not. No, guess not. Just catching up. If you're just joining us, welcome here. You're looking at a live view of Launch Site 3 at the Guiana Space Center, where Arianespace is preparing to launch an Ariane 5 rocket. If you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad, and we'll be answering those live throughout today's mission. Today, launching 2 communication satellites, one for India and one for Malaysia, to cover areas of Asia, bringing in internet connection as well. Communication connection, as well as video connections in 1080p, 4K, and 8K. David asking, is Ariane similar tech to the SLS? If you boiled it really down, sure. But very different. But yes, there are the 2 boosters on the side and then the main center core. It is a much smaller rocket than SLS in comparison to size, but is a extremely proven rocket. And what they have, one main engine on the bottom and then the 2 side boosters there. It really is a great launch system, as Brown says. Kevin says, looks like a baby SLS. Somewhat, yeah, in a way. It'll look more like it when we see the Block 2 SLS, that's for sure. Block 2 SLS will look a lot more like a big Ariane 5. New is asking, is it true that Ariane 5 will be carrying a pack of aid to space in a marketing stunt? I have not heard about that being included on this mission, but nothing saying that they couldn't do that in the future. We have seen marketing campaigns done before, but generally we see those done on crew missions or cargo missions to the ISS that then the crew can do. If you're just joining us, you're looking at a live view of ELA-3, the launch site at the Guiana Space Center, where we're counting down to liftoff. Liftoff scheduled with the opening of the launch window at the 5:03 p.m. Eastern, or about 43 minutes from now. Arianespace is going to get their stream up and running in about 15 minutes time, where they'll give us some updates on the fueling process and things like that. But this is a live view from the pad, and we're glad to be able to show that here. If you're just joining us, though, today's mission launching 2 communication satellites, one for India, one for Malaysia, into geostationary transfer orbit. They flick their screen there, so we'll wait to see what happens and what we can see. Maybe they'll go live with communications early. Who knows? If you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat, and we'll be answering those live. Just make sure you tag us at the launch pad so we're able to see your question come in there. If you like what we do, consider taking a moment, hitting that join button, or head on over to our Patreon to become a TLP crew member, where you can go behind the scenes and even have your name show up on screen with some new stuff we're going to be testing out this week. We're super excited to be rolling that out thanks to your guys' support. Also, don't forget, it is a launch day, which means you can now head on over to our shop and use promo code LAUNCHDAY, all in one word, and get 10% off of everything in the store. We do have international shipping, so definitely take a moment and check that out and pick up some space gear today. We've got our SLS collection now out, and we also have, of course, our SpaceX collection and our TLP gear. So take a moment, check that out. Really does help us out, and is a great way to start conversations wearing something that people may not know what's on your shirt. Thanks so much, John Fairs, for becoming a general support member there. Appreciate it. You get that TLP helmet next to your name. For the members that are already here, one thing we've been doing is rotating onto Patreon. So what we've done is we've opened that general support because many of you love having that helmet next to your name. So you can do the general support and then head over to Patreon for your higher tier. YouTube takes a bigger cut, so Patreon doesn't, so that's why we're migrating over. But see some questions in the chat. Brown asking, are these solid fueled rocket engines? We'll run through a little bit of what we know, but yes, the boosters are two P-241 solid rocket boosters that are attached to the side of the rocket's main stage. They are fueled with a mix of ammonium perchlorate, aluminum fuel, and hydroxyl terminated polybutane. Yes, say that all really fast. Each booster provides more than 1.5 million pounds of thrust, burning for a total of 2 minutes, 10 seconds before they separate and then will crash back down to the ocean. They usually are left to sink to the bottom of the ocean, but similarly to space SRBs, it is possible to recover them using parachutes. And when this is done, it is for post-flight analysis. The boosters, though, are not actually reusable, but sometimes they want to recover them, see how they perform during flight, and go from there. The main stage of the Ariane 5, the cryogenic H-173 main stage, is called the EPC. It burns for a total of 540 seconds, and it's comprised of a main tank with two compartments, one compartment holding liquid hydrogen and the other liquid oxygen. Together, they provide or sit with two of the Vulcan 2 engines on the base and provide vacuum thrust of 310,000 pounds for it. Ariane 5, an incredibly proven rocket, and that is what we're seeing today. Now, up on the top of that first stage is the second stage, and it is fueled also by liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen, and it can burn for 945 seconds and gives over 15,000 pounds of thrust in vacuum of space. So lots of maneuverability. Remember, Ariane 5 is what launched James Webb out to the L2 point. So that is what we are seeing there. Got a couple questions coming in the chat. Keep sending those in. Make sure you tag us at the launch pad. Anna Dominant asking, will you add Starship figurines on the TLP shop in the future? If yes, when? Soon. Stay tuned for that. We'll tweet things out, and if you join as a member and can go behind the scenes, we do show quite a bit of our future projects at different levels, so definitely check out those perks. But yes, we are working on bringing out a bunch of new stuff to the shop, prints, models, whole bunch of stuff, so make sure you stay tuned for those. We want to make sure that they're good quality but also affordable for everyday people that you're not taking out of your rent to be able to have a model or some TLP gear. So definitely check that out. Kevin saying, did I hear about SLS launching early September? That's what they seem to be targeting, is the last week of August into early September. That is the current launch window they are targeting. But we are keeping a close eye on that. John at home asking, was the wet dress rehearsal of the Artemis rocket a success? Technically, it was a success. Yes, they did get into their count. They did have a number of issues come up. A couple leaks, a couple overpressurizations, and stuff. And then they did get into that final terminal count, which is a huge milestone for any new rocket to get into the terminal count. Now, it did have an early cutoff. They were supposed to get down to T-minus 9.34 seconds, only got down to T-minus 29 because the computer did an auto cutoff. We have not heard as of yet why that was. They were doing some reviews. We do have our live pad view up of Pad 39B at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. So you can see a live view of the Artemis rocket out there on the pad. We're keeping an eye on. There's been lots of traffic going to and from the rocket today. So definitely doing some evaluations of the rocket, and they're going through all that data. I expect we will have another press briefing on the status of the rocket early next week. It'd be amazing if we got one maybe Friday, but I would expect that we're going to be seeing that more so in early next week. And in there, that is when they said they will determine whether they're going to conduct a 5th wet dress rehearsal or not. Samer, do you think Ariane is a good space company? I think all the space companies are great. That's why here at the Launchpad, we cover all of them. We believe that space is better together. That's part of our mission statement. So that is why we cover all the launches, both big and small. If you're just joining us, though, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad, and you're joining us for our live launch coverage of today's Ariane 5 mission, launching 2 communication sats up into geostationary transfer orbit on an Ariane 5 from Launch Complex 3 at the Guiana Space Center in the French Guiana, which, given the name, is actually not in France. It's in South America, is where they're launching from today. That's why it's daylight. And on your screen now is a live view from Arianespace of the rocket out on the pad, where you can see that Ariane 5 ready to go, fully fueled. The launch window for today is about an hour and 40 minutes long, and that launch window opens at 5:03 p.m. Eastern or 21:03 UTC. So we're coming down to about 38 minutes or so until the beginning of that launch window. So you can keep a close eye on that. And we will be watching to see if they target the beginning of that launch window, which from our last update from Arianespace is what we are expecting to see. As always, it is a launch day, so just a reminder, you can use promo code LAUNCHDAY, all caps, one word, on the TLP shop. We just launched our brand new store. We do have shipping internationally, so take a moment, check that out while we wait for Arianespace to join. We'll give a shout out to people as they place orders. Thank you so much, Tim, for your order. Appreciate it there. Thanks for supporting us in that way. If it's your first time here, though, at the Launchpad, here at TLP, we cover launches, dockings, undockings, and splashdowns, live test coverage. We cover all the press events with NASA and special events as well, and we are jumping into a bunch of new interview series as well with exclusive one-on-one interviews, to make sure you stay tuned for those. If you'd like to support what we do, you can hit that button on Patreon and become a member on there and become a behind-the-scenes member to see some of the things. We got a couple really big projects underway that our members are giving input into, helping with design, and get early access to beta things and early rollout to gear as well. So definitely take a moment and check those out. If you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat, and we will be answering those live. Yes, this is a live view from Arianespace, Joe. Joe Freddy, that is what we are seeing on screen. We are expecting Arianespace to begin their live English cover in about 5 minutes, and we're excited to hear just an update of status on the rocket as we count down towards liftoff in about 35 minutes from now. Thanks so much, Brown. Appreciate the support there of the interviews. Yeah, it was amazing last year sitting down with the Inspiration 4 crew. First interview with Jared right after the announcement. We had him first for an exclusive. Sitting down with some of NASA's brand new astronauts first. And coming up in the next couple of weeks, we've got some interviews with the directors of the Artemis 1 crew, our Artemis 1 flight command crew, so in mission control, from Orion, from Lockheed Martin, from all the teams. So definitely stay tuned for those. Kevin's asking, will Artemis roll as it travels like Apollo? So almost all rockets have some sort of roll in them to get them orientated. Obviously, launch sites are at a specific angle that the rocket has to sit on. So almost all rockets you will see have some level of a twist depending on the launch inclination they are going to. So yes, we will see some sort of roll in there. If it's your first time here, though, take a moment, engage that like button. It really does help us out, and subscribe so you never miss another space launch coverage. Also, let us know in the chat where you're watching from. It's great to have you all here. Shinra, welcome. You're French, and you didn't see a launch of an Ariane 5 for 5 years. We don't see many of them. We saw, I think, 2 last year. This is the first one of this year, and we're already halfway through the year. So we don't see too many, but they are a proven rocket, absolutely. Adamite asking, what do you think about the next space race, specifically the time we have with China and India in the game 2? My philosophy, together we can make impossible possible. I completely agree there, Animadite. I think, and I know I'm probably saying that wrong, I apologize, but I agree. I think A space race is good. It pushes us all forward. I hope we get to a point where we will share our science. That's one reason I really love the Artemis Accords, the new treaty for space going into this new Artemis era. One of the first key points in it is that we have to share all of our science and exploration together, and that's going to help push us forward. We're working on a video that breaks down the entire Artemis Accords, kind of like your unofficial guide to them. Stay tuned for that. I hope to have that out in the next couple of weeks because it's quite an intense document. There's a lot in it that countries are signing on to, and over 20 countries have already done so. We're starting to see a lot more sign on to it, which we're really excited about. So stay tuned for that video. But I do believe, as we say in our mission statement, TLP is here to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow because we believe that space is better together. T-Perm asking, what is the biggest launch coming up and when is it? Biggest launches this year, the three largest ones we're watching out for. The return of Falcon Heavy, we are expecting sometime in September. We are expecting the first ever flight of SLS sometime in September. And we're expecting the first Starship launch sometime end of August or early September. So September might be a really amazing time that we see a medium launch vehicle and a heavy launch vehicle and two super heavy launch vehicles come online, all launching from Starbase and Kennedy Space Center. So quite an exciting thing. Today's launch, always scheduled for today. The Electron capstone mission was rescheduled from early this week to later this week, currently targeting June 25th, and we are keeping an eye on that. Of course, we will be live for Electron's first ever mission to the moon, so we hope you'll join us for that. Also coming up later this month, we've got a couple more Starlink missions coming up, as well as we're keeping an eye on the demonstration flight out of India, and we have an Atlas V also coming up, and possibly even a launcher one with Virgin Orbit, so stay tuned for all that. A very busy half to June, the end of June 2022. Couple links there in the chat for you. If you haven't yet, consider joining us over on our TLP Discord. It's totally free to join. If you do become a member, that's where we do most of our behind-the-scenes access, but over half of our servers open to the public. Give a shout-out to Doric, 4984, Kevin, Marcus, Space Cowboy, and Black Widow, who are hanging out in the chat. Great to have you all in there, and you guys are more than welcome to be in there as well. I'll jump in there following today's launch, but if you're just joining us, welcome here to the Launchpad and our live launch coverage of today's Ariane 5 launch from the French Guiana, taking 2 communication satellites to geostationary orbit from the Guiana Space Center in French Guiana. Here at the Launchpad, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow because we believe that space is better together. And let's listen in to Ariane Space Launch Control.
Welcome to Road to Space. We are live here from Paris tonight to cover the first Ariane 5 launch of the year. Good evening, Emma.
Good evening, Baptiste. On board the launcher Meosat 3D, a new communication satellite for Meosat, Malaysia's leading satellite operator that was built by Airbus Defence and Space.
And GSAT-24, a Cuban communication satellite for New Space India Limited and built by the Indian Space Research Organization.
Yes, Baptiste, and in less than 30 minutes, Ariane 5 will be taking off from Kourou with these 2 innovative and powerful passengers on board.
And together we'll be following this launch step by step. But before, let's have a look at tonight's menu.
Tonight on Road to Space, we'll be live from Europe's spaceport in French Guiana with all the teams. We are here, of course, to witness the launch of the Ariane 5 rocket, which this evening will be sending 2 revolutionary telecommunication satellites into orbit.
It is not just a new satellite project for Meosat, but it's a national important project to close the digital divide in Malaysia.
Meanwhile, here in the Paris studio, we'll be talking to one of Space's top experts about the launch and showing you exclusive video reports on these 2 very special passengers on board tonight.
With the successful launch of GSAT-24, NSIL would be owning and operating nearly 11 Indian communication satellites in orbit.
We will also be taking a look at the launcher Ariane 6 and all the latest developments and hearing about one of the most unknown and mysterious jobs in the space industry.
Mon moment préféré, c'est le décompte final. Vous savez, quand on a 10, 9, 8, nous, on est là, on attend. Et au décollage, c'est là où on va commencer à parler. Et là, il y a un débit de folie, il y a un coup d'adrénaline.
We'll discover more about Bordeaux Métropole, an important member of the community of Ariane cities and sponsor of today's flight VA 257.
Ariane nous fait rêver. L'espace est un rêve.
Nous sommes fiers du soutien et du parrainage de Bordeaux Métropole.
And finally, we'll be answering all your questions from the social networks. Welcome aboard Road to Space.
Ariane 5 launcher is programmed to take off in less than 30 minutes. And to help us understand the finer details of this very special flight tonight, we're thrilled to welcome David Iranzo-Greus. Good evening, David.
Good evening, David.
Good evening.
So, David, you're one of Arianespace's leading space experts, and you'll be our guide tonight, helping us to understand each stage of tonight's flight.
But right now, if you're okay, let's go to Kourou, where Stéphane Israel, Ariane's CEO, is waiting for us. Stéphane Israel, we have a look. Yeah, hello. How are you doing, Stéphane? Welcome on Road to Space.
Hello, good evening. I'm fine.
Well, so Stéphane, today's mission will be the first Ariane 5's launch of the year, and I understood that you have two very special passengers today.
Indeed, we start tonight the Ariane 5 year with two special guests and very loyal customers to Arianespace. We have on board Measat 3D for Measat, and the journey with Measat has started in 1996. It was the first Measat satellite we launched, and tonight this will be the fourth we will be launching. And we have also a satellite for India and its new space organization, NSEAL, a satellite built by ISRO, the Indian Space Agency, GSAT-24, and tonight it will be the 25th satellite we will be launching for India. The journey has started in 1981.
Well, so that's an incredible track record, but what can you tell us about today's flight?
Yes, so we are now in the final operations before the launch. The launch shall happen now in a few minutes. The day has been very smooth. All the parameters so far, but it's not done yet, are green. So let's be a little bit patient. And we will have a launch of almost 40 minutes. We will lift off towards the east. The first passenger to be separated will be Measat after 28 minutes. And just before the end of the mission, it will be the turn of GSAT-24.
Well, thank you very much, Stéphane. Good luck with everything. We'll be back soon with you in Kourou to tell you about tonight's flight.
Baptiste, did you know there are beautiful beaches in Kourou?
Yeah, apparently, this is something you told me about.
Yeah, well, for the first time in Road to Space, we will show you what happens outside the launch pad. David, we've got some images coming up of the beach. You are an expert, you are our expert, and you've been to Guiana. This place is close to the launch pad. You know it well, I imagine. Can you talk to us about it?
Yes, the beach is it's an excellent viewing point for the launches. We're a bit more than 15 kilometers from the Ariane 5 launch pad. And as the launcher flies towards the east, we have an excellent view for a few minutes up to booster separation if the weather is clear, and sometimes even longer. We will shortly have some images about this amazing beach. It's a view. It's an incredible view, side point to watch the flight. Yes, definitely. It's a very nice place to watch the launches. Okay, thank you very much. We'll go back on those images a little bit later. For those of you who've just joined us, welcome to Road to Space. In less than 25 minutes, Ariane 5 will launch its 231st and 232nd satellite.
Well done. David, you are head of Advanced Studies Department at Arianespace. To understand the key stages, the key phases of this flight, we have some images that are about to come up on our screen. I wonder if you could comment on them.
Yes, sure. So Ariane 5
we'll have those images in 1 second.
In 1 second,
and you will comment on all the flight, all the trip we will have tonight. Yes, those are the images. We'll listen to you.
So yes, Ariane 5 will lift off from Kourou in the northeastern coast of South America. At 8:0, the Vulcan engine of the main stage will ignite, and once we have checked that the engine is working fine, the solid propellant boosters will be ignited and will lift off at 7 seconds afterwards. The launcher will climb and then perform a gravity turn, progressively tilting the trajectory towards the east. After 2 minutes and 20 seconds, the boosters will be separated, having finished their job. Around 1 minute later, the fairing will be jettisoned once the launcher has reached a high enough altitude so that the fairing is no longer needed. And you see on the world map the towers and the little dots. These are the tracking stations that will follow the launcher along its trajectory. At 8 minutes and 40 seconds, the main stage will have finished its job, and the engine will shut down, and we separate from the upper stage. A few seconds later, the upper stage engine will ignite, the HM7V. It will burn for more than 15 minutes, shutting down once the targeted orbit is reached at 25 minutes and 36 seconds. After that, the upper stage will start a series of maneuvers to give MEASAT 3D the correct orientation, and the satellite will be separated at a bit before 29 minutes. Minutes later, the SILDA, the double launch structure, will separate, and it will open the way for GSAT-24, which will separate approximately 40 minutes after launch. And after that, the launcher will begin its passivation, emptying its propellant tanks to avoid any pressure from building up, and reducing also the lifetime in orbit.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, David, for all this information. We are going to follow this flight quite closely. But let's have a look at the green panel. The panel you see on your screen. So we see everything is green. Everything is green. Can you tell us a little bit about this panel, please?
Yes, this panel gives the status of all the different systems that are needed for the launch. So all the lights need to be green for the launch to happen. If anything happens, one of the lights will turn red, and then we may have to stop the countdown to solve the problem and come back to the launch. So you can see, for example, the status of the launcher, of the satellites, of the launch base, of the telemetry network, and the radars, and of course the weather. The weather is one thing we cannot control.
What's the weather like tonight?
For the time being, everything is green, so we should be able to launch.
Well, as you say, the panel is definitely green for the moment, and that's what we want to see. David, this evening's flight is Ariane's first flight of the year for Arianespace. What other interesting facts can you tell us about this particular launch?
So the launch will be the 257th launch of the Ariane family. It will be the 113th launch of Ariane 5 and the 80th launch in the ECA configuration, which is the configuration with the cryogenic upper stage. And tonight we will be delivering close to 10 tons of satellite mass into geostationary transfer orbit.
Well, so before this launch, let's have a look about those two satellites aboard the rocket. Two communication satellites that will be launched into orbit. In this first short report, we'll be looking at GSAT-24, a powerful and innovative satellite that will be providing high-quality TV, telecommunications, and broadcasting services to India. Let's have a look.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. We are counting down T-minus 19 minutes, 30 seconds, and counting until liftoff of today's Ariane 5 rocket from the French Guiana at the Guiana Space Center in South America, where two satellites, one from India, one from Malaysia, are being ready for launch. Already loaded up on the rocket and closing that fairing, ready to launch into a geostationary orbit. First deployment expected about T plus 28 minutes. The next deployment about T plus 38 minutes. So a pretty quick launch here. So make sure you stay with us after launch and through those deployments. So we'll be staying live, answering your guys' questions live. But if it's your first time here, don't forget, take a moment, engage that like button, and subscribe. It really does help us out. Right now on screen, they're playing a video through talking about one of the two satellites that are on board, showing some of the testing campaign of the solar arrays. You can really just see the size of these payloads. And remember, the Ariane 5 is what launched the James Webb Space Telescope on December 25th, 2021, up to L2, one of its biggest missions in history. And glad to see another Ariane 5 out at the pad. Some of these videos, we know there's music in them, so that's why we don't play them. But if you want to be able to catch those, make sure you check out Ariane's stream following the launch. But stay with us as we stay live throughout today's launch. Ian's asking, how long does the second stage stay up there? It's a great question. I don't believe we have an exact time, but they do drain all the extra propellant following all the stage deployments to make sure that when it re-enters, there's no explosions and no extra propellants being leaked into the atmosphere. We're not talking long because it's not at a super high orbit once those deployments are complete. And we do, if you guys are interested in joining our Discord, we can drop that link in the chat there. It is free to join. We do have half our Discord for our members only, so if you're interested in becoming a member, check out our Patreon. So it's just $1.50 Canadian a month, like $1 US, and you can get some behind-the-scenes access. So definitely check that out. At this point, we should be about T-minus 17 minutes and counting until liftoff.
Satellite launched by Arianespace. So David, it's a partnership that began a long time ago, 1981, 40 years ago.
Yes, indeed. We have a long and strong relationship with our Indian customers. And let's say on a less technical note, during all these years, we have been lucky to taste excellent Indian food with our customers in French Guiana. A few years ago, I was happy to act as launcher technical manager for the launch of GSAT-11.
So we'll talk about Indian food. It's amazing food. I like it very much too. But let's talk about the GSAT-24 that will be placed into a geostationary transfer orbit. Can you tell us, David, a little bit more about this position, please?
Yeah, so geostationary orbits are very interesting, in particular for telecommunications, because they have a unique feature, which is that the satellites in this orbit do not move as seen from the ground. So how is this possible? Well, it takes 24 hours for the Earth to do one turn around itself. And when you're in geostationary orbit at 35,786 kilometers above the equator, you will go around the orbit in 24 hours as well. So you will not move as seen from the ground.
And are there any special challenges for tonight's flight? Is it a special one? It's always a special one.
Yes, space is hard and every launch is a challenge in itself. But when we get to this point, it means that a lot of people have worked very hard for many years to build the satellite and the launcher. And everything has been checked and cross-checked to make sure that the 40-minute ride to orbit will be perfect. On Ariane 5, we have a very good track record, as illustrated by the last launch with the Webb telescope in December.
Yeah. So thank you very much, David. Now we know more about the first passenger, but there's another one aboard. Let's focus on this second passenger called MISAT 3D and Ima.
Yes, Baptiste, and it was built by Airbus Defence and Space. MISAT 3D is a new communication satellite that will complete the fleet of MISAT and improve affordability to internet connection in Malaysia. We have a second report coming up right now, and in it we'll give you an exceptional insight into this very effective new satellite.
And if you're joining us, welcome. We are at T-minus 14 minutes, 30 seconds and counting until liftoff of today's Ariane 5 rocket. We are looking at a full green board. Both satellites are green. The weather, the rocket, the pad, and the authorization for launch are all green as we count down through today's launch sequence. Today's deployment, as we said, going to take about 28 minutes for the first satellite to deploy and about another 10 minutes after that for the second. So make sure you stay with us there. And we're answering your guys' questions live in the chat. Just make sure you're tagging us at the launch pad or send it in as a super chat to make sure that we see that there. I saw a couple questions coming in. One asking if Ariane 5 is such a reliable rocket, why don't they have it human flight rated? Ariane 5 is specifically for a cargo rocket. A number of reasons why they won't human rate it, but that's what it's for. To be a human-rated rocket, there are a lot of requirements about Gs and reuse, the recovery and abort sequences and all that, and Ariane 5 just doesn't have those. And then we do have Ariane 6 coming out here next year, so we don't have many more of these Ariane 5 launches left. Joe saying he got the first image. Yeah, counting down to those first images of James Webb, July 12th. Very exciting to see that first colored image from the James Webb Space Telescope. Yes, it does have too high of a TWR as well. Jim, thanks so much for becoming a member. Really appreciate you supporting us in that way. Again, if you're joining us, we are counting down until liftoff of today's Ariane 5. Let's listen back into Arianespace Mission Control.
The Ariane 5 rocket tonight. This is a very important moment as it will happen at exactly, you ready for it? 28 minutes and 30 seconds after liftoff. David, this timing seems to be extremely precise.
Yes, it is. During the preparation of the mission, our teams perform very precise simulations, taking into account all the data from the launcher and the satellites, to be able to predict the exact moment when the targeted orbit will be reached, and then the time that it will take to turn MEASAT 3D in the targeted orientation in space before separation. So this is where the 2836 comes from.
The separation of GSAT-24, which is the second satellite, will occur 40 minutes after liftoff. With MEASAT and ISRO, respectively, from Malaysia and India, this flight is an important milestone for the partnership between the Pacific region and Arianespace. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yes, indeed, Arianespace has a long-standing relationship with India and with many other countries in the Asia-Pacific region. In fact, Arianespace has had for many years offices in Tokyo, in Japan, and in Singapore to be close to the many customers we have in this region.
Thank you very much, David, for this information. We are more or less 10 minutes away from the launch, and let's have a quick look at the green panel. You have the control panel just in front of you. Can you tell us?
Yes, for the time being, everything is green.
But have you ever witnessed a red light?
Yes, indeed. Things can happen, and of course, since we control a lot of things, sometimes we get red lights, then we need to do additional checks.
Can storm, for example, can it turn green into red lights?
Yes, indeed. I mean, on the weather green light, it can turn red if at the time of the launch there are thunderstorms that are too close to the launch pad, or if we have very high winds, things like that.
Okay, David, I have an information. So yes, we are commenting a green panel. So even if everything is green, the information I just got is we are going to delay the launch of the rocket just 15 minutes. So what I suggest is we can have a look at the sum up, what we will be explaining, what we will be watching tonight, and we'll be coming back shortly to comment this launch that is just postponed, just 15 minutes. It happens. Let's have a look at tonight's menu, and we'll come back very soon.
Tonight on Road to Space, we are live from Europe's spaceport in French Guiana.
Okay. Couper le chic. On reprendra.
À tous de DDO, suite à un rouge ensemble de lancement, le temps décompte sera arrêté à moins 7 minutes.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. We are counting down towards the liftoff of today's Ariane 5 from the French Guiana. We have entered a delay. At the last look, right before they pulled up the countdown is on holds graphic, they did show that the weather board was completely green, at least the one that they were showing. So we're waiting to hear an update on why we've had this delay and how long of a delay it will be. So make sure that you stay here with us. We're not going to go anywhere until we have an update on why today's launch is having this delay, but hopefully we will still be able to see one. If it's your first time here, though, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad. Here at TOP, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow because we believe that space is better together. We cover all the launches, dockings, undockings, splashdowns, test coverages, press briefings, all of the above, as well as exclusive one-on-one interviews. So if you enjoy space, make sure you engage that subscribe button so you never miss another space news. Follow us over on Twitter to get space news updates as they happen. And you're welcome to join us over on our Discord as well. Totally free to join. But if you do become a member over on our Patreon, you can go behind the scenes at TOP, get early video access, script access, exclusive members merch, and more, and helps us bring you the best possible space coverage of everything space. We are keeping an eye on why they've had this delay and what all is occurring with the delay as we count down towards launch. If you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat. We'll take some time to answer those live here. Just make sure you tag us at the Launchpad, just like we have there in the chat, and we'll be able to see those questions coming in as we await an update on why we have entered a hold. We had confirmation that at T-minus 15 minutes and even down to T-minus 9 minutes, the board was all green, and we were able to... we were still in that count, and then they pulled up the hold screen. So we'll wait to hear what's going on, maybe possibly a range violation. We've seen those before, or maybe weather in the region. I know our TLP Studios is getting hit right now by a big thunderstorm. So if you hear some rumbling, and I think it might even be hail outside, apologize for that noise. But we're here and we're safe, and we're not going anywhere until we at least have an update. Entity saying they said weather. Okay, so they're keeping an eye on the weather in the region. I missed that here while having to do some modding, so I appreciate you catching that there for me. Thank you so much. Flawed Perspective saying ESA and NASA do not provide a lot of information about what is going on with the launch. Valves, tanking, pressurizing. Can we get some of those details? We are working on building some of those into our new overlays and our new coverage that we'll be doing. We got some exciting stuff in the works to hopefully show you here in the near future. There's a lot of things that aren't shared because of security risks and how the rocket operates. Obviously, there's a general idea on how they go, but some of these rockets, we do not get a detailed information. The amount of information that we know about how Starship works and even how Falcon 9 works is quite rare, just because of how accessible those rockets have been, and that is why we're seeing that. Did they lose the launch keys again? I hope not. I don't think so, but I hope not. Okay, there we go. We have an update on screen. Additional checks are being conducted, and they will use the launch window's extended time. The liftoff is being delayed by more minutes, and they will be back soon with their broadcast following along their Twitter. We are keeping an eye on their Twitter as well to get more updates on today's possible launch delay that we are now seeing here. It is something that it does happen as they go through these type of events, and they are double checking some different things as they go through this countdown. We'll hopefully have a new countdown clock here in the next few minutes. Today's launch window does run from 5:03 p.m. Eastern or 21:03 UTC until 6:43 p.m. Eastern or 22:43 UTC. So we still have an hour and quick math, hour and 42 minutes left in the launch window that they would be able to launch. So we do have some time. Where's your place base if you can hear thunder? We are in Alberta, Canada. So we are in Alberta, having a storm going over. Absolutely. Send in that question, Nathan. Today's launch is from the French Guiana, and though it says French Guiana in the name, it is not actually in France. It is based out of South America, and that is where we are launching from. If you're just joining us for the Ariane 5 launch, we have had a delay in today's launch. We got down to T-minus 9 minutes, but have entered now a delay due to reports. We're saying some weather, but we're waiting for an update to that T0 clock. Still lots of time left in the launch window. So if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad, and we'll answer those live as we continue through until we either hear a scrub or we hear a new T0. At this point, we still are expecting a launch here, and at this point, we have no reason to believe that they are not. But in 3, 2, 1, that was the original T0 of liftoff. That has now occurred. So we are past the opening of the launch window, and we now have 1 hour, 40 minutes on the clock that they are able to launch this rocket. Flawed Perspective, thanks so much for becoming a VIP spectator. Appreciate it. If you are in the Discord, send a DM to one of our mods, and they will help you get connected with your YouTube to upgrade your Discord role to access behind the scenes. Really appreciate your support there. John, I would believe so. I think so. If they resume the count, I think they're probably going to resume it from 15 or 20 minutes. So most likely you have some time. Justin asking, these rockets are not reusable, right? Correct. The Ariane 5 is not a reusable rocket. The SRBs on the side, the 2 solid rocket boosters, are recoverable. Very rarely do they do it, but just like the space shuttle ones, they can be recovered under parachute and then soft splash down in the ocean. They can be recovered so they can do reviews of the booster's performance and see how that all fared, but they do not. They are not a reusable rocket. They can't be recycled during that launch. It is launching from the same pad as Webb. You're right. Rocket launches today. Great to see you in the chat. Pat's asking, why would they launch this from South America versus in Europe? So that is where the Guiana Space Flight Center is from and is located, is in the French Guiana in South America. So that is just the location. Distance to equator is a huge deal. Flexibility of launch inclinations is also a large deal. And being in French Guiana, they have some more options of doing that. Still waiting for a new T0 for today's launch. So waiting for an update on that. So there on your screen, you can see that weather board. They at this time, that top one is their launch authorization. They do not have authorization to launch the Ariane 5 at this time, and the launch set is not green either. So we got two reds on the board of green. So we are in a hole at this time. We've been holding for about 18 minutes at this time, waiting for some updates from Arianespace. We do still have their stream patched in live, waiting to hear any updates from them as we go through this delay, but at least we do have an updated board on what's happening. Due to red in the chronology, they are now on hold at T-minus 7 minutes. So they are holding at that T-minus 7 minutes mark. And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. We are currently in an extended hold for today's Ariane 5 launch. There's lots of time left in today's launch window as the window extends to 6:43 p.m. Eastern or 22:43 UTC, over an hour and 20 minutes from now. At this time, you are looking at a live view of their board. We have two red zones on the board. The first one is their launch authorization, and that is red because of the launch set, which is the ensemble de lancement. That means launch set in English. So we are currently red in those. We do not have exact reason why at this time, but they are reviewing some things and do hope to still be able to make their launch window. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat by taking us at the launch pad. We'll be working on answering those to the best of our ability as we can through this extended hold as we count down to liftoff of today's Ariane 5 launch from the French Guiana. Stay with us right here on the launch pad. And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. We are currently remaining at T-minus 7 minutes in holding as Arianespace's team are continuing to evaluate the remainder of the launch window and what red flags they do have on the screen. Right now there you can see the launch authorization. That's that first one at the top is red, as well as launch set. That is the second one that is red. On the right-hand side, everything was green down to T-minus 9 minutes and counting, and we entered that unexpected hold in the count, but no to worry. It is a longer launch window with time all the way to 6:43 p.m. Eastern Time or 22:43 GMT. Today's launch is an Ariane 5 launching from ELA-3 at the Guiana Space Flight Center in the French Guiana, launching two communication sats, one for Malaysia, one for India, up to a geostationary transfer orbit. If you wanted to see a little bit more details of what the satellites look like, scroll back about 30 minutes in the stream, and you'll be able to see a couple videos that they played while we were going through the countdown clock for today's flight. But as we wait for today's mission to either get a confirmation of a scrub or a new T0. Take a moment, let us know in the chat where you're watching from. And if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. We'll be answering those throughout this hold as we go through today's count, but holding at T-minus 7 minutes until liftoff. Angry Astronaut, great to see you in here. Thanks so much for joining. Always welcome. Be great to do an interview together sometimes. Lots of people wondering, thoughts on the SLS wet dress rehearsal? Let us know in the chat. But it's great to have you here. Adam Day asking, will SpaceX do a static fire with only B7 or a ship on top of the booster? We definitely expect to see Booster 7 go through static fire testing. And there's a possibility we could see a static fire test with a ship on top, but I think more unlikely. We'll see what happens as they go through this testing campaign. Remember, Booster 7, there's a lot of engines under there that need to be static fired. So it's going to take some time to work through all of those engines as they continue towards their orbital launch attempt. Elon saying they think it'll be ready for end of next month. Most people seem to be thinking it's going to be probably another month or so. So we'll go from there. Awesome. I'll definitely check it out, Angry, after this stream. Been keeping my eye out for it. Welcome, Bryster. Great to have you here. Student at Embry Riddle. Great to have you. Lots of amazing people go there. Yeah, Elon time at its finest. You're spot on there, Rocket Launch. Absolutely. Again, if you guys are just joining us, we are holding at T-minus 7 minutes and holding. We've been in this hold for about 32 minutes at this point as we await for an update on whether they will have a extended launch. Like, the launch window exists, but whether they will go for another attempt here. We did hear reports that it was possibly based on weather that they were having today's delay, but we're still waiting for more official updates from the Arianespace team. Arianespace did release a tweet about 20 minutes ago saying, due to complimentary checks for the VA257 mission, today's launch, the HO was postponed by a few minutes inside the launch window, and said they would keep us posted. So with that, if we're taking that into account of what the end of the launch window is, that is 1 hour and about 15 minutes from now. So within a few minutes of that, if, give them a 15-minute window there at the end, we might be about an hour away from launch, but we are keeping an ear to Arianespace for updates. We do have the stream still patched in, so the moment we hear anything, you guys will hear it in the same real time as I do. Hey, John, how's it going? I'm glad you made it back. Nope, no change. So it was a good time for you to make that beer run. We're still in that hold. It sounds like they may be targeting the end of the launch window about an hour from now. So still got a little bit of time. That is a live view still on the left side of your screen of the rocket. So we are still able to see the pad and see that they are continuing towards their launch here today. If you haven't yet, though, and you're interested and you like space, make sure you engage that subscribe button. It really does help us out so you never miss another space launch coverage, exclusive interview, or space news update. And feel free to join us over on our Discord. It is totally free to do so. You can join us there. We'll drop the link in the chat, hanging out in live comms during today's mission, but also leading up to other ones. But if you do become a member of TLP over on Patreon, drop that link in the chat there for you. You can go behind the scenes, get early video access, script access, and help work on some of the design of some future things we're working on launching over the next year. We've got a lot of stuff coming up over the next 6 months, and we can't wait to get to show it all to you here in the very near future. possibly some stuff even during this stream. We'll wait to see. We're running some last tests, so. Do they have a typo in their message? I've done it too, so I wouldn't be surprised. Today is not from KSC. Today is from the Guiana Space Center in the French Guiana in South America. And there we go, another update from Arianespace on screen. Additional checks are being completed, and they have restarted their upper stage fueling operations. H-0 to be defined accordingly, and they'll be back soon with their broadcast. So a great sign that they will be continuing within today's launch window for another attempt here. We are currently holding at about 38 minutes and counting in this hold. The Team 0 clock was sitting at T-minus 7 minutes, as you can see on that screen there. But we'll see if they are going to resume at that clock point or if they are going to have to wind that clock back a little bit before resuming the count. But an update from Arianespace that they are going to resume the count here. They have resumed fueling their second stage as we count down towards launch here today. So that's why you stick around. You never know what's going to happen. Space isn't easy. It shouldn't be, but they are still continuing towards today's launch window. We still have an hour and 10 minutes left in today's window, so lots of time to still be able to see this Ariane 5 liftoff from the French Guiana. If you're just joining us and have questions, keep sending those in the chat and answer by tagging us at the launch pad, and we'll work on answering those as quickly as we can as we wait through this hold and as we wait for a new T0 to be identified. While we're still waiting for a new T0 to be set, we've been working on some new things here at the Launchpad for our launch streams. We kind of hinted towards them earlier, and we want to take a second while we're in this hold, waiting for a new T0 to make some testing of a new overlay system. This is only part of it, so there's a lot more that will be added to this, but we want to just see how this looks, so bear with us on trying this out. But this is part of what our new Launchpad overlay system will look like. So we're excited to be able to do this, bringing in the local clock times, the countdowns, launch locations, trying to answer some of those frequently asked questions, but also a big thank you to all of our members from the VIP spectator level and higher. Your names are right there rolling across the bottom of the screen, and we really appreciate your support in making the Launchpad what it's able to be and bringing the best possible space coverage of everything possible. So if you would like to see your name at the bottom of the screen, head on over to patreon.com/thelaunchpad, or you can hit the join button here on YouTube, but Patreon takes less cut. But you can do so in helping support what we're able to do and get your name there on screen. We're working on some of the font alignments as Rocket Launch Today says on there, so bear with us as we're doing some testing. Some of this stuff you can only do with real-world testing, so we're excited to throw this on air. And we'd love to hear from you. What would you guys like to see on air? What type of information would you like added? We are going to add a live camera with me back on air here, most likely for the capstone mission later this week. We're going to have headlines and updates on screen as well coming up, so more things there. But what other information would you guys like to see on screen? And right there, we saw an update to that board. We are now seeing all green across the board, which is a great sign that we are getting ready to continue into today's countdown. They have updated the resume the fueling operations of that second stage, and that board showing all green means they now have authorization to launch, and they are getting ready to resume that count hopefully here in the next few minutes. If you guys have ideas of what you'd like to see added, easiest way, you can let us know in the chat here, and we'll definitely take notes of those. But join us over on our Discord. We'll jump over into live comms or general hangout following today's launch, and love to hear your guys's, and you can put it in general chat as well, but we'd love to hear your guys' feedback.
Lanceur, le nouvel A0 visé est 21h50 00 TU. Le temps décompte démarrera à 21h43 00 TU.
Sounds like a new T0 being set, so we'll wait for that to update in that top right, and then we'll be able to update ours. As you can see, we've been in a hold for about 43 minutes at this point. Still have an hour and 5 minutes left in today's launch window. And there we go, that new T0 at 9:50 p.m. UTC. So we're at T-minus 10 minutes, 35 seconds, and counting until liftoff of Ariane 5 from the Guiana Space Center in the French Guiana. Teams now with an all-green board as we work towards today's liftoff sequence. If you're just joining us, though, take a moment, engage that like button. Really does help us out. Let us know in the chat where you're watching from. I think Angry Astronaut's got it spot on in the chat. It would be great to see a wave of Go Arianespace in the chat there as we work towards today's launch. This is only the second launch from Arianespace this year, the first Ariane 5 of 2022. The last one we saw launched December 25th, carrying the incredible James Webb Space Telescope to orbit. We don't see these too often, and hopefully next year, in the first half of next year, we will see Ariane 6 come online as the Arianespace team works diligently to get their pad and their rocket ready for its test flight. Should hear them resume their live commentary here, possibly give us an update on what holds occurred and what checks had to be completed. But as we come down, T-minus 9 minutes, 20 seconds until liftoff.
Hello, welcome back on Road to Space. We just interrupted the launch and the program. Just at the time, David, we were talking about this green panel, and we were talking about those green lights, and just at this time, one turned into red. What happened?
Yes, that's right. So during the checks that were done at the end of the filling of the tanks, there were some measures that were seen that were a bit out of the usual measures that we see in this case, and therefore, of course, we take no risk. So we stopped the countdown and we analyzed these measures to make sure that there was nothing that could stop the launch, and therefore now the teams have finished the analysis. Everything is just come back to normal, so we can launch again the.
And as you told us before, space is hard and those things happen. For those who are joining us now on Road to Space, stay tuned. In just a couple of minutes, we'll be connecting to Kourou in the French Guiana to follow the launch step by step. But now let's have a look at the menu tonight.
Tonight on Road to Space, we are live from Europe's spaceport in French Guiana with our teams. In just a few minutes, we will witness the launch of 2 revolutionary telecommunication satellites aboard the Ariane 5 rocket. Meanwhile, here in the studio, we'll be chatting to one of space's top experts. After the launch, we will give you an update on the latest developments of the new rocket Ariane 6 and learn more about the community of Ariane cities.
Nous sommes fiers du soutien et du parrainage de Bordeaux Métropole.
We will unveil the secrets of one of the space industry's most unknown jobs. And finally, we'll be answering all your questions on social media. So don't go away. Stay with us and enjoy the ride.
So David, we're only a few minutes from liftoff. So what is happening right now to the 2 passengers at this time?
Finale lanceur. Le nouvel I0 est 21h50, 00 temps universel.
Yes, so we just.
Yes, so that's the DDO we've just been hearing.
Right, we just heard the DDO announce the start of a synchronized sequence.
Yeah.
And the new liftoff time, which will be in 6 minutes and 40 seconds. So yes, in this last minutes, we will have the final pressurization of the tanks, of the liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen tanks. We will start in a few seconds, a few minutes, the opening of the valves that would feed the main engine with propellants. And shortly before liftoff, we will have a handover from the ground equipment to the launcher, who will control the power and all the last steps before liftoff.
At this time, is it still possible that Ariane 5 doesn't lift off?
Yes, again, in these last minutes, there's a lot of tests that are going on. And so, of course, we have done some controls before to make sure that everything goes as expected, but there are some tests, so these tests could always stop the launch.
Okay, so it's a stressful time since teams have been working for weeks and months, and so we have some images of that campaign that we'll be watching, and if you're okay, David, you will comment all those images for us.
Of course, yes. So here we have the arrival of our first passenger, Miasat 3D, who arrived in Kourou by boat. The container was transferred to the spacecraft preparation facilities in the Space Center, where it was unloaded in the clean room facilities. After that, the inspection and testing of the spacecraft, the satellite was mated on the flight adapter, and then it was fueled. And the second spacecraft you see here coming out of an Indian C-17 airplane. It was also transferred to the spacecraft preparation facilities for testing, and then mating here on the launcher adapter. After that, the spacecraft was fueled as well. And after that, it was transferred to the final assembly building where the Ariane 5 launcher was being prepared in parallel. Here you see GSAT-24 being put on top of Ariane 5. After that, the fairing that you see here was mated with the double launch structure and put on top of Miasat 3D, which is the upper passenger, and the whole stack was then assembled on top of the launcher. The logos of our customers that were put on the fairing, this is one important point, of course. And finally, when everything is ready, the launcher and the spacecraft, yes, just today, the launcher was brought out of the final assembly building and was transferred to the launch pad where the operations started yesterday to prepare the launch.
Thank you very much, David. We should ask to have a Road to Space sticker on the next rocket. That's just something I would like very much. It looks like everyone has done an incredible job to make this all happen. If you look up on your screen now, you will have some live images from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou, and inside you have the Ariane 5 launcher. Inside the Ariane 5 launcher, you have two very special telecommunication satellites, Miasat 3D and GSAT-24, who are both waiting patiently for the green light to lift off. We are now exactly 2 minutes and 50 seconds from the liftoff. What are the next steps before the launch?
Yes, so right now, as I mentioned before, the final tests are being done. All the valves are starting to be open and to be checked. And yes, in a few minutes, the control of the operations will be handed over to the launcher.
And so we will have we're watching the countdown 2 minutes away from the launch.
And as we come down to T-minus 2 minutes, 10 seconds and counting, we want to see in the chat, as always here on the launch pad, you can see a go, no, go. You can write that in the chat, or if you're a TLP member, use those emojis. Thank you so much, Angry Astronaut, for that $5 super chat. I really do appreciate that and appreciate you being here and supporting us in that way. Love what you do as well, so awesome to see you in here. Coming down T-minus 1 minute, 45 seconds and counting until liftoff.
During a launch?
Yes, I have been in the Jupiter room, but I have mostly been in the CDL3 room, which is the bunker located close to the launch pad. In this control room, we have the operation, quality, and engineering teams that are following the last operations. And by the way, I take the opportunity to say hi to them, even if I know that at this time they are fully focused on what they're doing.
I don't know if we have the possibility to watch at the Jupiter room, because we see all the people in the Jupiter room moving to the windows. Well, those are the people.
Attention pour moins une minute.
So we just had an image of people watching.
Yes.
Because people are attending over there.
À 0 moins une minute.
Yes.
1 minute from the liftoff.
That's right.
DDO has just announced the countdown. Let's immediately go to the green panel on our screen. Make sure all is good, David.
Yes, yes, for the time being, everything continues to be green, so we're still go for launch.
And now we are 42 seconds from the ignition. So this is the moment we've been all waiting for. Let's watch, let's cross fingers, and let's enjoy the show, because it's always incredible.
Yes.
À tous de DDO, attention pour le décompte final. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, top. Allumage Vulcain. Allumage 2 EAP, décollage. Propulsion nominale, tous les paramètres à bord sont normaux. Tous les paramètres à bord sont normaux.
Well, we have just seen Ariane 5 disappear into space. Do stay with us, everyone, because what's going to happen next is as crucial as the launch.
Trajectoire
This is,
nominale.
of course, the moment when the two satellites, GSAT-24 and MEASAT 3D, are placed into orbit. David, you're our space expert tonight. Ariane 5 still has a long way to travel before the separation of the two satellites. Where and when will this happen, and how many kilometers away from the launch site?
Yes, we're not quite there yet, yes. MEASAT 3D we will separate from the launcher in about 30 minutes, 1,200
Propulsion nominale,
kilometers
trajectoire nominale.
above Kenya. And GSAT-24 will separate about 10 minutes later above the Pacific Ocean, about 38,800 kilometers.
I imagine that everything is minutely calculated and programmed so that the satellites find their position themselves. So what, can you tell me, David, is the role of the team in Kourou at this stage?
Yes, indeed, as I said, everything is controlled by the onboard computer on the launcher.
Trajectoire conforme à
The
l'attendu.
team in
Trajectoire
Kourou,
nominale.
this is what we are hearing right now. They are receiving data from the launcher through the tracking stations, and they are checking that everything is going according to what was foreseen.
Well, I'm just focusing on those images, incredible
That's
images.
incredible.
We're just watching. So it was really impressive. And it's a really nice night.
Yes, yes, it's
so
clear
dreamy.
skies.
Just before the satellites find their
nominale.
I'm interrupted because we
We
hear
are
DDO.
hearing-
Everything is okay.
Yes.
Before the satellites find their position in orbit, 36,000 kilometers above our head, David, what should we be focusing on?
So right now,
Yeah.
yes, we
Séparation
just
EAP.
had the separation of the boosters.
Yeah, we can see it.
which
It's
have finished
incredible.
their
image.
jobs.
Incredible.
Yes,
Yeah.
we have very good images tonight. We have
That's the
apparently
first
very
time we
clear
see it so
skies.
clearly.
The
That's
first time,
incredible.
it really is.
So the launcher is at an altitude
Tous les
of
paramètres à
about
bord sont
70
normaux,
kilometers
trajectoire
and
nominale.
traveling about 7,000 kilometers per hour right now.
We've just heard the DDO has announced the fairing separation.
Yes, so
Why? We don't need it anymore.
now the launcher has now reached an altitude around 110 kilometers where the atmosphere is really thin, and therefore we get rid of the fairing, which was there to protect the satellites from the atmosphere and from the liftoff.
So it's not already done. I'm confused. It's not already done. It will happen.
It should happen shortly, yes.
Should happen shortly. And you have
An earpiece.
an earpiece, and so
Yes.
you're directly connected to Kourou. So you
Séparation
have,
coiffe.
There we go.
yeah, there we go.
There we go. Well, for all of you who've just joined us on Road to Space, the Ariane 5 rocket has just left the Guiana Space Center in Kourou 3 minutes ago. And tonight we have two very special passengers on board, one from MEASAT, Malaysia's first satellite operator, and the second one from New Space India Limited, which is a public enterprise under the Indian Ministry of Space.
And in 20 minutes, MEASAT 3D will be the first released into space. David, can you tell us a bit more about its future position?
La propulsion est
Yes,
nominale.
so MEASAT 3D will be in geostationary position, 36,000 kilometers above the Earth. The satellite will be fixed with respect to the ground, as I explained before. And so it will be in what we call the 91.5 degree east orbital slot, which if you look at a world map, you will see that 91.5 degree longitude east is over the Indian Ocean, about 1,000 kilometers from Kuala Lumpur. So it will be in a perfect position to serve Malaysia and Southeast Asia.
Okay, MEASAT 3D is part of the MEASAT family. We had MEASAT 1, 2, and 3A, launched all by Arianespace in 1996 and 2014. It's a long-time partnership between the client and Arianespace.
Yes, indeed. Arianespace has had a very strong relationship with the Asia-Pacific region for years, for decades. And MEASAT and Malaysia are indeed very important customers to us, yes.
MEASAT 3D and GSAT 24 are still continuing their journey into space on board Ariane 5. Let's now have a look at the screen and some incredible images we have of today's liftoff from the Guiana Space Center, which happened just a couple of minutes ago. I'm going to ask you, David, probably to comment on them.
Yeah. So we can see on the screen what we have, because we don't have this replay right now, but we have on the right. So this is the 3D images.
Yeah, so this is the situation of the launcher right now with the main stage that is functioning right now, and that will continue to function for a few minutes, yes.
And for the people that are watching us, all the information they see on the low part of the screen. What is this?
So yes, you have there the altitude of the launcher at this time. So you see it's about 160 kilometers.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. We are at T plus 6 minutes, 15 seconds and counting since Arianespace has launched an Ariane 5 from the French Guiana. Current altitude 166 kilometers, traveled over 750 kilometers downrange already, traveling 4.10 kilometers a second. We're expecting first payload separation to occur at T plus 28 minutes, and the next payload to deploy about 10 minutes after that, completing today's mission. So a rather quick one for an Ariane 5. On the bottom of your screen, to see understand the few graphs that you're seeing, the bottom left one, somewhat under our logo, that is showing the trajectory for how far downrange and how far in elevation the Ariane 5 has traveled. So you can see it's kind of leveled out now. It's going to be picking up some speed and traveling more horizontally than it is increasing its altitude. The second screen is tracking all the ground stations Ariane 5 will pass through during its mission, as well as those deployment points. It's hard to see, but there is a little green dot on the left side just above South America. That is the current location of the Ariane 5. You can see the ground stations that it is connected with those orange cones for communication. The blue boxes you see to the east of Africa, those are the two deployment points. They're now showing that on an animation on the screen as well. But as we continue on, now having traveled over 1,100 kilometers downrange at an altitude of 165 kilometers, traveling now at 5.5 kilometers a second. Remember, Arianespace isn't the one known best for showing live views of their rockets and animations there. They don't have as many cameras on board, but that is okay. At least we're seeing the telemetry as we continue towards deployment. As always, if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat. We'll be answering those live. Just make sure to tag us at the launch pad, and we will be answering those. I want to say a big thank you to all of our members. As always, we're breaking in one of our new overlays. This is just part of it on screen, and all those names you see rolling across the bottom, those are from our members. VIP Spectator and higher, if you want to get your name on there, click that join button or head on over to Patreon, patreon.com/thelaunchpad. Patreon takes a smaller cut, so it's a win-win for you and us if you do it over on Patreon. Same great benefits, though. But I think Kevin hit it spot on. SpaceX really spoils us with the cameras. We're so used to those that when we see other ones, and there we go, first stage separation has occurred, and second stage ignition. So the main center core of the Ariane 5 has now separated, is making its way back to Earth, and the second stage has ignited. The second stage can burn for about 945 seconds, and now you'll see on that bottom left graph in the bottom corner, an Ariane 5, you'll see that line wiggle. Sometimes it'll even lower its altitude to pick up more speed before it increases its altitude, so keep an eye close on that. Now, about a quarter of a way across the Atlantic Ocean, traveling at just under 7 kilometers a second, having covered over 1,770 kilometers, still maintaining an altitude of about 164, 165 kilometers. So we'll expect to see that increase here over the coming minutes ahead of deployment. Deployment expected, the first deployment 20 minutes from now at T plus 28 minutes. Second deployment right around that 38-minute mark as well. John, thank you so much for another super chat there. I really do appreciate that. Thank you. I should send you our GoFundMe. That way more of that comes to us and not to YouTube. GoFundMe link should be in the description if you like it. You don't need it, but if YouTube takes 30%, we want to be open and honest with that. So if you guys like to support us, you can do so by doing over on the GoFundMe if it's a larger donation. That way your money goes to what you're hoping it goes for there. Angry Astronaut, spot on regarding the footage. The French do things differently than the rest of us and generally don't care what the rest of the world thinks. It is frustrating, but they do things their own way, and it's okay. Absolutely. There's no right or wrong necessarily launch coverage. There's what we want and what we get, but you're spot on there. Some incredible footage here from the liftoff. There's an engine cam of Ariane 5 lifting off 11 minutes ago from ELA 3 at the Guiana Space Center in French Guiana, lifting off 2 communication satellites, one for India and one for Malaysia, both to provide communications and video downlink for their regions. One will cover all of India and the other will cover a larger portion of Asia. Depot Dolphin, that is a very great question. Why could we not see the launch cameras live? Yeah, I see Twitter's kind of blowing up about that too. Great question. Great question. We'll work on getting a TLP crew member down to the French Guiana for some of these launches in the future. So we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll just have to send you, Ryan. If you're just joining us, though, we are now just coming up on 12 minutes since launch of the Ariane 5 rocket. You're watching a replay from launch here just a short time ago as we work towards payload deployment.
No.
They're still talking over it, otherwise I'd play it, because I'm sure that would be some incredible footage with some incredible sound. Some great tracking images as we see the booster separation coming up here shortly. Those 2 solid rocket boosters, not recoverable, not reusable, excuse me. They can be recovered by parachute some of the time if they want to be recovered to review how they performed and everything. But generally speaking, they just crash down to the ocean in the Atlantic and then sink to the bottom. Justin says he'll go down there. It's a long flight. We've looked at going. We looked at going for James Webb. And for us in North America, it is easier to fly to Paris and then fly back to South America than it is to go from North America just a few hours south. So you're traveling like my trip to Kenya was a shorter trip than it would take me to get the French Guiana, even though it's really a lot closer. So maybe one day. If you guys become members and support us, we want to bring you coverage of everything space from all the launch complexes around the world. So maybe one day we can have someone there on site. Yeah, I'd meet you in Paris there, Ryan, and we go together. That'd be how we have to make it happen. John asking, is there a salvage program for the waste? No, there is not. So Arianespace does not recover their SRBs normally, unless they are actually wanting to recover them with the parachute return, where they still splash down, but they recover them very similarly to the space shuttle boosters. But generally speaking, no, they just sit on the ocean, fill with water, and then they sink. And that is what they do with them. Flawed Perspective says a route through Bogota. Maybe. Yeah, there is a way through the U.S., but you have to be on like puddle jumpers and you have to like hop through all of it. I'm a fan of big planes personally. But if you're just joining us, welcome. We are coming up to T plus 15 minutes. We're at T plus 14:22. Ariane 5 having now launched. They're traveling at 7.6 kilometers a second, traveled over 3,700 kilometers downrange already at an altitude of 153 kilometers. That altitude, they had it on their screen a moment ago. Hopefully they'll show it again here. Starting to increase back up in the altitude. It's gained its speed, and now it's going to increase its altitude as we head towards deployment at T plus 28 minutes. I wish I could show the telemetry. I know they took it down, but we've had a successful launch from ELA-3 at the French Guiana, and hopefully we will have the telemetry back on screen here in just a couple of minutes' time to actually know what's happening. Live streams are not easy. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of work that even goes into us doing it in this way. We've done live on location tracking. So it does take effort, and it's a lot of work. And for a lot of these companies, it isn't super required. But at least show us the telemetry, please. If you guys have questions, take a moment, share those in the chat, tag us at the Launchpad, and we'll be answering those live. Thanks so much for being here, Marsky. We'll see you later. I agree, Angry. Absolutely. The fact that they're actually going to try for Ariane 6 reusability is amazing. Should have been thought of a long time ago, but at least, companies are starting to look at it now, and that's super important. Some level of reusability, at least. I'm shocked that the SLS isn't recovering the SRBs like we did with the shuttle to reuse them. At least that's not their current plan, maybe down the road, but... reusability is going to be key for us to be able to do a lot of things. Either reusability or it has to be super cheap. One of the two. Really has to be one or the other. RLT, we're not going to touch that one with a 10-foot pole right now. But it's great having you all here. We are now about 17 minutes or so since liftoff of the Ariane 5 from the French Guiana. About 10 minutes away from deployment of the first 2 satellites on today's mission. Brysar, I agree. I am so excited for Dream Chaser. I hope to be down there for that first launch. I'd love to get to see a Dream Chaser up close and personal. One now on display at the Gateway Deep Space Launch Complex at NASA Kennedy Space Center. If you guys are in the area and haven't checked it out, they've got one in their new Gateway building next to a Falcon 9 booster on the wall, or on the ceiling, actually. Yeah, really excited to see Dream Chaser Cargo and then Dream Chaser Crew come online. I know Angry did some amazing content around that as well. Getting to see it up close and personal, which was awesome to see. Yes, and land. And land. Absolutely, you're right.
The Metropole will hold its second Aeronautics Summit, an event gathering leaders of the sector, politicals, researchers, entrepreneurs, and investors. They will meet to affirm their progress in terms of ecological transition. So, David, what about space? How do we protect environment in space?
Yes, it's clear that in particular with the arrival of very large constellations in low Earth orbit, everyone has to play the game, and they have to follow, everybody has to follow international regulations and make sure that all elements are deorbited at the end of their lifetime.
And so Arianespace has already demonstrated a responsible attitude towards space debris. Concretely, what are they doing?
Yeah, so Arianespace became one of the first companies to sign the Net Zero Space Charter, which is designed to reduce the debris in orbit by 2030 and to foster more sustainable use of space. On our launchers, we have demonstrated this responsible attitude with the upper stages for Vega, for Soyuz, and soon for Ariane 6. The upper stages are deorbited when launching to low Earth orbits. On Ariane 5, the upper stage performs maneuvers at the end of its mission to reduce the perigee and the apogee, and this helps to reduce the time it remains in orbit.
Okay, we will talk a little bit later in Road to Space about Ariane 6. Just before, just the word, how the new launcher is more sustainable.
Yeah, so the upper stage of Ariane 6 has a reignition capability that will allow it to clear the operational orbits. So most of the time by deorbiting it, or by transferring it to a safe graveyard orbit.
Okay. The European Space Agency recently named a startup, ClearSpace, in charge of the world's very first mission to demonstrate how to remove large space debris starting in the 2025. Do you think that they will pave the way to a new market involving the deorbiting of space debris?
Yes, it's clear that the sustainability of space, it will require, on the one hand, for all the actors to play the game and to follow the rules and to follow regulations to avoid adding additional debris. And on the other hand, it will require missions like the one that ClearSpace will perform to go and catch debris in orbit, which represent a risk. So Arianespace, of course, is ready to provide the launch services for these kind of missions to go and get some debris in orbit.
Okay, so Ariane 5 is now on its way. It still has a long way to go before MEASAT 3D and GSAT 24 separate from the launcher. In the meantime, let's have a look at some questions we receive on the social network. David, we have a question for you tonight. This one comes from, it appears just behind us. Laetitia, how long did it take to build Ariane 5?
Yeah, so building Ariane 5, it starts way back, roughly 3 years before the launch, when the first pieces of metal, the first screws are built. And progressively, more and more complex systems are assembled, leading to the manufacturing and the assembly of the stages that are then shipped to French Guiana. And finally, it takes about 6 weeks in Kourou to do the final assembly and to integrate the satellites for the launch.
So once all those different elements of the rocket have been built over Europe, how are they transported to Kourou?
Well,
by boat, I guess.
Yes, in the end by boat. All the elements are transported first by road or by river boat to several main harbors around Europe, in France, in the Netherlands, in Italy. And from there, Arianespace has 2 boats that go across the Atlantic and that transfer all the stages for the launches.
If you're just joining us, we are at T plus 22 minutes, 30 seconds into today's Ariane 5 flight. The rocket now traveling at 8.8 kilometers a second, having covered over 7,800 kilometers downrange. And you can see that altitude in that bottom left graph, that altitude starting to go up, traveling a little bit less distance, but going up, having passed now through 391 kilometers in altitude, going up about a kilometer a second here. Another video from Arianespace, but we are expecting to see that first deployment in about 4 to 5 minutes from now. So we'll be waiting to see that deployment here, everything seeming to continue on timeline. The next launch, saw a couple of people asking, next launch is Capstone, the Rocket Lab Electron mission to the moon with NASA. We're expecting to see that on the 25th at this point, about 2.5 days from now, so make sure you stay tuned for that. We, of course, will be live bringing you full coverage of that launch. Very excited to see Electron. We were hoping that this one was going to be stateside, but they moved it back to New Zealand, but excited to see Electron heading towards the moon. After that, we do have a couple more launches coming up before the end of the month. We hope you will join us for those. We have a Falcon 9 SES-22 mission. We are looking at possibly having a maiden flight of the RS-1, a maiden flight of the Terran-1. We've got an Atlas 5 that was delayed from earlier this week to now the 30th. So lots of things coming up here for the end of the month, and early next month we're going to now see another Vega rocket, a Launcher 1 rocket, a whole bunch of stuff coming online, so make sure you stay tuned for those missions right here on the Launchpad, because remember, here at the Launchpad, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together, and we should be about 2 to 3 minutes away from payload deployment of the first of the 2 payloads on board today's Ariane 5 launch. Let's listen back in.
The first separation. In less than 5 minutes, Meosat 3D will be put into geostationary transfer orbit to reach an altitude of 36,000 kilometers.
Thank you. And now let's concentrate on what is happening next. David, I'm sure you have some additional information to give us.
Yes, so in a few seconds, we're very close to the end of the upper stage. The upper stage engine should shut down shortly, meaning that the targeted orbit has been reached. And so after that, there will be a series of maneuvers that will begin to prepare for the release of the upper passenger.
Well, I don't know what they're saying in your earpiece, but we were about to lose Libreville. Yes, we lost Libreville.
Yes, as you see on the world map, we are, let's say, somewhere halfway across Africa, and therefore we have lost connection with the first station, which was in Libreville in Gabon. Yes.
And before the next stage of tonight's flight, which is the separation of Meosat 3D, we now have an exclusive interview with Daniel Neuschwinder, the Director of Space Transportation. Let's take a look.
And in typical Ariane style, we are coming up on deployment here, and they're playing a commercial about the Ariane 6. But we are coming up on that deployment. We have passed that second stage cutoff point at an altitude of 737 kilometers, traveling over 9,500 kilometers downrange, now at 9.3 kilometers a second. Should be coming up on that deployment here in just a couple of minutes, so we'll be waiting for that, waiting for confirmation from Arianespace on that deployment. Ariane 6 does look really cool. It looks like a great rocket. Really excited to see it come online for another Ariane option. I would translate this. This is the one time I wish that I really did remember to take French. I live in Canada, where we had to take French for 6 years in school, and never thought I would use it, and now I wish I had it. But they're going through a talking video here. We would play these, but sometimes they got audio in them, so we have to be careful on that to make sure that we can bring you guys the best coverage without getting taken off of YouTube. So bear with us in those moments as we have to be cautious of that. See a question from Brystar. Has SpaceX had failures before? Absolutely they did. Their Falcon 1 had quite a few. Falcon 9 has had some. Most of the Falcon 9's issues in the last many years have been due to recovering during landing, learning how to land a rocket for it. We have the one that blew up on the pad. So yes, Falcon 9 has had its issues and its failures in the past, but it's been many launches since we've seen some sort of failure in that sense. And most of the time when we've seen them, again, it has been by recoverability, which means it is not actually a major issue because it's just for them to recover the rocket. The mission was successful in deployment. Let's listen back in.
Meosat 3D separation from Ariane 5. David, what news do you have from Kourou about this first separation that is about to happen?
Yes, it should happen in a few seconds. The launcher has now finished the maneuvers to give Meosat 3D the correct orientation. And yes, in a few seconds, we should have the confirmation of the separation.
Which is a really important step.
It is indeed a very important step, yes.
Well, let me remind you all that Measat is the premium supplier of communication and video services to leading broadcasters, direct-to-home platforms, and telecom operators in
Séparation
Malaysia.
Measat 3D.
There we go. We have now the confirmation.
Yeah, that's perfect. And so you were telling the
Separation of
separation.
Measat
Yeah.
3D is one of the
Paramètres
most
d'abord sont normaux.
important stages of tonight's flight, isn't it, guys? Another one is when the satellite links up to the operator, and Measat will be looking forward to this momentous moment. Oh, they are clapping, where they can finally celebrate the end of the mission. David, for the moment, all the teams in Kourou seem to, there's thumbs up, they seem to be very happy.
Yes, but indeed it's a very good moment for Measat, but the mission is not over yet.
And this is why we see in the Jupiter room, if you have people clapping, but most of the people, most of the others are
at
not.
all. They're very serious.
Staying focused.
Yes, so the launcher now will do a few maneuvers to release the SILDA, the level launch structure. And then after that, it will do some additional maneuvers to release the second passenger today, GSAT-24.
Well, the DDO has confirmed the separation of the SILDA. We are now 10 minutes away from the second separation, GSAT-24. No.
Séparation SILDA, système de lancement double, Ariane.
I have information you don't have.
You
No,
can.
I'm
He
kidding.
has
Actually,
his only little earpiece.
I was confused. I was confusing. So now we have this confirmation.
Yes.
So, which means we are 10 minutes away from the second separation, GSAT-24, a first demon-driven communication satellite mission undertaken by the New Space India Limited. So all teams, as we said, in Kourou remain focused. Among them, we have the CVI. Who are they? What role do they play in the mission? Let's watch. I'm not asking you the question. Let's watch this report.
And if you're just joining us, we are T plus 30 minutes, 30 seconds into today's flight. The first payload deployment having been confirmed. And we are about 7 minutes away from seeing that second payload being deployed. We were talking just before we saw payload deployment there. Someone had asked about Falcon 9 failures. Really good point that was brought up in our Discord was that all those failures, keep in mind, were not Block 5s. They were the earlier block versions of the Falcon 9. So that's what we are seeing there for that. Anyone keeping count on videos being played? I mean, if you're of age, it's a great drinking game, too. How many times do they not show the rocket when something's happening? Yeah, you never know. As always, though, we appreciate you guys being here. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage the subscribe button so you never miss another launch or docking or undocking or landing live or press briefing or exclusive interview. We cover that all here on the Launch Pod, your one-stop shop for everything live. We are working on bringing on some 24/7 cameras as well this year, so make sure you stay tuned for those. And we only can do that thanks to your guys' generous support. Now, if live streams isn't enough for you and you want to be part of a really awesome community of people and talk about space all the time and just hang out with people that love space, consider joining our Discord. It is totally free to do so. There are people almost always in one of our comms areas or in the chat playing Spit Kerbal, playing a couple other games, or just hanging out talking space. Totally free to join there. But if you do become a TLP member, you can get access to the second half of our Discord, where is all of our behind the scenes, where you can help see those 24/7 cameras early when they start to come online. You can help design the overlay like you see on screen, get early video access, exclusive member merch, and more. You can do that all on Patreon. Again, a huge thank you to all of my mods as well. Heather, Rocket Launch Today, Widow, Phil we saw earlier, I believe, Joe. Really appreciate you guys supporting us in that way and making sure that the Launchpad is a safe and fun place for everyone. They have to fill the dead time with something. They don't have any actual footage. True, they just have the animation. That is a very good point.
David, I guess we could say hello to Justine. She's talking to you, and we saw her in the report.
That's right.
David, I'm glad to see that there are women like Justine working in important positions within the space industry. It looks like we need some more, but let's get back to our mission in hand. Can you confirm now the injection orbit of the first satellite, David?
Yes, at this point, the CVI team has the information from the launcher on the exact injection orbit, and this information will be provided to our customer to facilitate the first connection that the satellite will establish with its ground stations.
Well, thank you, David. So we're waiting for this moment with MISA to celebrate the success of the mission. Meanwhile, we have a couple of questions from you on the social network related to tonight's flight. And we have this one from Elon Muscles. It's a different one. The question is, blah, blah, blah. So I give you a sum up. When can we consider the mission of an Ariane 5 rocket to be over?
Yes, for our customers, Ariane 5 mission is over once the satellites have been released from the launcher in the targeted orbit. So this is what just happened for MEASAT. However, for us at Arianespace, the mission continues a bit after releasing the satellites. We use the remaining propellants on the tanks to reduce the altitude of the orbit as much as possible. And then we depressurize the tanks to make sure there is no problem. And we basically turn down all the power and all the systems on the launcher. Basically, we shut everything down in a safe way.
I have a question for you, David. You spoke earlier about both satellites being launched into a geostationary transfer orbit. We talk a lot about geostationary position, which we all know is, 36,000 kilometers above our heads. But what is the difference between the two?
Yeah, so yes, indeed, the launcher is putting the satellites into what we call a GTO, a geostationary transfer orbit. This orbit is an ellipse with a low point at 250 kilometers above the Earth and a high point at 36,000 kilometers above the Earth, so the geostationary altitude. And so when the satellite reaches this high point of the ellipse, it will use its own engines to accelerate and to avoid falling back to 250 kilometers. And so this acceleration will be sufficient to stay at 36,000 kilometers all the time. So it will, at that point, be in geostationary orbit.
Okay, David, you explained us before the first satellite is released above Kenya, more or less, and the second one above the Indian Ocean. So what's the launcher speed at this time?
At the time of the release of the satellite, the first one, MEASAT 3D, it was about 9 kilometers per second. And as we climb up, the velocity decreases and the separation of GSAT will take place with a velocity around 7.3 kilometers per second.
I have something, because we've been talking before Road to Space tonight, and you explained me, we can compare this, me throwing a ball.
Yes, that's right. You can compare it to your hand could be the rocket.
The rocket, yeah.
And so when you release the ball, this is what happens when you release the satellites. Your hand stops pushing the ball, the rocket stops pushing the satellites, but the satellites continue moving up, and this is how they will move up to these 36,000 kilometers, which is the apogee of the orbit.
Okay.
A great comparison. Thank you, David. Well, we are now less than 2 minutes away from the separation of GSAT-24, the Indian satellite manufactured by ISRO. So if we look up at the screen, what information is it giving us, David? Flight info, speed, altitude, height. Can you say that everything is normal?
Yes, right now everything is normal. The launcher is doing its last maneuvers to put GSAT-24 in the right orientation for the release. So we are now about 3,500 kilometers above the Indian Ocean, just not very far from India, and with a speed of, close to 7.3 kilometers per second.
So does this separation signal the end of the mission? That's what we want to know.
Well, this separation will be the last operation performed by the launcher, but as I said before, after that we will wait for the confirmation of the acquisition of a signal from the customer.
And at what time will this happen?
Well, this should happen about 10 to 12 minutes after the separation of GSAT-24.
So all the teams we are waiting, they are waiting patiently in Kourou. They must be on tender hooks. This is a huge moment for them.
Yeah, we're
There's
seconds away from the second separation.
Just waiting for Raymond Boyce, the
Yes.
DDO.
We have the confirmation that, yes, as you see in the images, the launcher has finished the maneuvers, and therefore the separation will happen shortly.
So you have the confirmation yet? Because I'm waiting now until the
There we go.
Oh, brilliant. Oh,
well, so this is the
clapping.
DDO, and he has just confirmed the separation of GSAT-24. This is a great news, and this is why we can see all those people clapping and
applauding the success of the mission.
Yeah, that's an incredible time. So yeah, why is this confirmation really important, and why are we waiting for a signal acquisition?
Yeah, so the satellites, after separation, they need some time to switch on their systems, to start deploying their solar panels. And once they do that, they will, let's say, call home. So they will establish a contact with their ground stations to confirm that the satellites are in good health. So
okay. But what will the satellites do after contact has been established with the station?
Well, they will begin a series of tests and maneuvers that will take a few days to turn on all the systems, to check that all the systems are functioning correctly. And yes, basically that's what will happen.
And then what happens? How do they reach their final orbit?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, they will use their own engine, their own propulsion system to accelerate once when they're at the apogee of the orbit, in order to transfer to the final geostationary position.
Well, let me remind you all that this second satellite, GSAT-24, was built by the Indian Space Agency, ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization, for NSIL, and will provide the Indian subcontinent with high-quality telecommunication and direct broadcast satellite services. Did you have something to add?
Yes, for us, Arianespace, we are proud to say that it is the 25th Indian satellite that we launch.
Well, David, you've been lucky enough to go inside the Jupiter room many a time, I think, and in the CDL-3 many times. How would you describe the ambience, the atmosphere here at this stage of the mission? It must be electric.
Yes, so having released the satellites at this point, there is a feeling of relief, a feeling of mission accomplished. But of course, everyone is eagerly waiting for the last confirmation from the customer that the signal has been acquired, which confirms the definite success of the mission.
So I hope we'll have the opportunity to be there. It's now more than 40 minutes since Ariane 5 took off from the European Space Center in Kourou. Let's take another look at some incredible images of tonight's liftoff. Let's have a look at this replay. It's always an incredible moment, and the launch we've been attending today was...
We witnessed today was incredible.
We witnessed today, yeah. It was incredible. Those are the images we saw. It was not dark night.
No, yes, it was sunset. I was lucky myself to see one of these launches once, a sunset launch with very clear skies, and it was definitely feeling and hearing the launch. You feel the vibrations. I was located 5 kilometers from the launch pad, and it is definitely an amazing view, an amazing sight. And I was able to see, like today, all the flight up to booster separation. So it was really, really amazing. I had tears in my eyes.
Wow.
Is it always special? It is always the same? It's different, one launch from the others?
Unfortunately, I have only seen once this launch from outside. Usually the other launches I have been inside the control room. But yes, it definitely depends on the conditions, the atmospheric conditions and the weather, yes.
Acquisition GSAT par les stations.
So we hear the DDO, and at the same time we're watching all those images we had.
Yes, so we had the confirmation from the DDO that GSAT-24 has been acquired by its ground stations.
Okay.
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
This is really, really good news for all the teams working so hard on this campaign.
So, David, you've participated in many launch preparation campaigns. Apart from takeoff, what for you is the best moment of a mission?
Yeah, so during these launch preparation campaigns that last several weeks, after these intense moments of the countdown and the launch, the best moments, of course, are after the release of the passengers once the mission has been accomplished. It's a big moment with all the launcher teams, and after these weeks of intense work that is not always easy, so it's definitely seeing everybody happy is a great satisfaction.
Well, we certainly saw everyone happy tonight.
Yes, and also with the customers, seeing the customers after the launch and seeing how their satisfaction and gratitude, it's definitely a great moment.
Well, let me remind you that later on tonight we will have the pleasure of talking to Arianespace's customers. We'll be linking up with Mr. Radhakrishnan Duraraj, Chairman and Managing Director of NSIL, and also with Mr. Sankaran Muthusamy, Director UR Satellite Center at ISRO.
Yes, Emma, and we are currently waiting for the MISAT 3D acquisition that should happen in the next 5 minutes. Then we have an interview with François Gaulier, who is Senior Vice President Telecommunication and Navigation System at Airbus.
Well, the two satellites that were on board the launcher tonight have already been placed into geostationary orbit. But as you know, we are now waiting for the signal acquisition. This will happen in a couple of minutes. In the meantime, I suggest we answer some more questions from our audience. Let's see. I have a question from Alexia.
We should have a question. Yeah, we have a question from
Alexia about the heavy launch vehicle Ariane 5. Now, what does she ask? Who gets to push the liftoff button of Ariane 5? No, it's not
me.
you.
It's me.
It's not
I do.
Yeah, so in fact, nobody does. As I mentioned before, once we get to the end of the countdown, it's Ariane 5 itself, it's its onboard computer to be precise, who decides to lift off, to ignite the main engine and to ignite the boosters once it has checked that everything is ready and that it will fulfill its mission.
Well, in our spacework report tonight, we interviewed a young female CVI. She's called Justine, 26-year-old, works as a mission analysis engineer. Isn't it quite unusual to have a woman working in the space industry? What is the gender parity? What is the male to female ratio in this sector?
No, we have, in fact, we have many women working at Arianespace and at the Guiana Space Center in general. Unfortunately, there are less women than men for the time being, as with many other technical and engineering activities. But okay, even if there is still some way to go, the percentage of women is definitely increasing.
So what are the types of jobs that women generally hold, David?
I have seen women really in every position. There are women assembling the launcher, there are women performing the test, doing the engineering analysis, managing the activities, or being senior experts on very difficult technical fields. So really everything is possible.
So,
well, I have a question, because you have questions, and I have a question, because I'm more focusing on environment.
Less on women.
No, I'm focusing on everything, but I like environment. Don't confuse me, please. We've been talking about that subject once before on Road to Space. The area around the launch pad is a wild environment. And that's incredible because we cannot figure out, but you can see wildlife and some CCTV camera security camera catching images. What kind of animals?
Yes, the launch base is right in the middle of an area with plenty of wildlife. So the security cameras often see interesting visitors. Recently, there was a family of jaguars that was seen very close to the launch pad where Ariane 5 took off today. So, in fact, there are many unique wild species inside the Space Center, and it is CNES who does a great job of monitoring all this wildlife and making sure they're secure, as well as the environment to guarantee that everything is safe.
And I have another question about the environment. how is it cleaned, the launch pad, after the ignition? Does it need to be cleaned? Is it watered? How does it work?
Yeah, the launch is, of course, there is it's a very harsh environment. There is a lot of hot temperatures, a lot of pressure, and therefore, yes, after the launch, there is a big inspection that is done of all the launch area, making sure that, okay, pieces have not been broken, or if there are things that need to be exchanged. And yes, everything is cleaned, and let's say...
And from what I know, the water is recycled, and I mean, it's a really an important point.
Yes, the water that is used in particular to damp the sound during liftoff, it's water that is collected it's rainwater that is collected in a tower right next to the launch pad. And yes, this water is
okay, we should definitely make a report about that part, because it's, you know, I like those little stories behind the big stories. Everybody's focusing on the rocket, but we have many things. Oh, why everybody is clapping?
Yes, we had the confirmation from Miasat.
Miasat acquisition.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Well, so that's a really good news. We're watching.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Everybody. Well done, David. Well done to their teams. This is going to be a moment when I think we'll be going back to Peru.
Definitely, because it's we're just letting them having a few moments to cheer up and celebrate, and we will connect to Kourou, where Stéphane Israël should be waiting for us.
Not only him, there'll be loads of other people.
Yeah, a lot of people, but firstly we'll have a communication with Stéphane Israël.
So we can...
He's ready. He's probably shaking hands, and we will be
He must be
discussing
very,
with
very
him.
happy.
Yeah, and we see all the teams. Okay, Stéphane, can you hear us?
Yes, I hear you very well, yes.
Hello, so it's a good news. Everything went perfectly tonight.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yes, it was a perfect launch tonight. Yes, it was a perfect launch tonight, and it's very important for us because it is the 4th time we deliver for Measat. It is the 25th time we deliver for India, ISRO, and for the first time Nessil. There was also an auxiliary payload embarked for Korea on the Measat satellite. So tonight we have done the job, and we are very honored to have delivered.
And so I'm sorry because you are focusing on tonight, but what's next?
So I want first to thank all our customer partners for this launch, because it's really a collective success. It's led by Arianespace, but with all the European launcher family, CNES, ESA, Ariane Group for sure, our prime contractor. So thanks to all of our partners, thanks to our customers. So what next? We will have in July the maiden flight of Vega C. It will be a very important event. And we will come back to the Guiana Space Center on September the 6th for a key customer, Eutelsat, the satellite Connect on board of Ariane 5.
And we will be definitely with you in September for this launch. Thank you very much, Stéphane.
Thank you, Stéphane.
And have a nice day over there in Guiana, in French Guiana.
Thank you.
Well, that was great to hear Stéphane Israël's reaction after the completion of the mission. You, like him, David, must be feeling quite proud tonight. It's quite an achievement.
Yes, it's always a great satisfaction when we reach this moment when the satellites have been handed over to the customer in space. So congratulations to everyone, yes.
Well, I think it's now time to meet up with some other very special guests. Mr. Radhakrishnan Duraraj, Chairman and Managing Director from New Space India Limited, and Mr. Sankaran Muthusamy, Director of UR Rayo Satellite Center from ISRO. I think they might be ready for us in a minute. We should be joining up with Gregory in the VIP area of the Jupiter room with our two special guests. Gregory, are you there?
I'm sure Gregory is there.
We saw him earlier.
We saw him earlier, and...
He must be busily shaking hands as well.
Yeah. Or maybe trying to grab the people
exactly
themselves, shaking hands. So, well, so that's a special moment. Everybody was tensed, everybody was stressed. Now everybody's enjoying, and we see Gregory.
Good evening, Gregory.
Gregory, good evening.
You're with our two special guests.
We have a little problem,
Gregory. We can't hear you.
Give us a second. We don't hear you, Gregory. So.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we can hear you now. Sorry.
Okay, great. So you can hear me, Baptiste and Emma, and
yes,
I would
perfect.
like to thank you very much. We are here back in Kourou, and I'm here with two representatives of the teams who have designed, manufactured, and soon will be operating now GSAT-24, and coming soon the other teams from the MEASAT satellites operations. Next to me is Mr. Radhakrishnan, representing NSIL, the operator of GSAT-24. So I think this satellite means actually a lot to your organization. Could you explain us why it is so important, sir?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think, first of all, New Space India Limited is extremely excited to see our first demand-driven communication satellite built by Indian Space Research Organization. Built and successfully launched. Would like to also congratulate and thank Arianespace for giving us such a beautiful orbit. This particular satellite is going to meet the direct-to-home telecommunication needs of India. So it's all the more significant for us because in the coming days we are going to have many more operations related to the satellites. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. I think you have many plans for the future. Could you let us know more about the future for NSIL?
Yeah. Now, New Space India Limited, after the space reforms announced by Government of India, has been mandated to do missions on a demand-driven mission. So GSAT-24, the launch, what we saw just now, is one of the many missions that we plan to undertake in the coming years. We have a couple of communication satellites that needs to be launched in the next 1 or 2 years. So we are eagerly looking forward to build our assets in the space and provide all the communication needs of the country.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this very interesting insight. And next to you, we have Mr. Sankaran, welcome back, representing the Indian Space Agency, ISRO, whose teams have designed and built GSAT-24. So, Mr. Sankaran, this was actually the 25th launch made by Arianespace for India, I think. So what does it represent to you?
It represents the cooperation between two of the greatest nations in the world, India and France. We have been cooperating not only in the spacecraft building and launching the spacecraft, but in several areas, including science, technology, engineering, defense equipment, procurement. You say it, we have a number of areas where we are supporting each other and helping us to move forward. So this is a very, very exciting 25th satellite, and this happening on the 50th anniversary of our center, the URF Satellite Center, is an added benefit. And this is also the 75th anniversary of Indian independence, which is being celebrated throughout India. This is nothing more can be better than this as a celebration for Indian scientific people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to you too, and again, congratulations on this successful launch. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With you, Gregory, in Kourou to hear two other special guests, Dongjung Kim, Director General for Airports and Air Navigation Facilities Policy in Korea, and François Gollier, Senior Vice President Telecommunications and Navigation Systems at Airbus. They are waiting for us. And so we go back to you, Gregory.
Yes, thank you very much, Baptiste. Actually, I'm here now with François Gollier, as you mentioned. François is part of the successful MEASAT 3D team tonight, and he's a representative from the satellite manufacturer, Airbus Defence and Space. So, François, your company manufactured the satellite MEASAT 3D, sorry. How long have you been working on this project? Can you explain us?
So it's true, we have been through all the milestones in the beginning, very successfully, one by one. And I really want to be grateful to all the teams, our teams, and as well the customers, to be able to deliver and to be on time tonight for the launch. Being through this COVID period, it has been a real challenge, and having this successful progress of the program until today was a real success. So thanks to you all for that.
Thank you very much. And let us know, this was not the first time Airbus Defence and Space was working on a MEASAT satellite, right?
Absolutely. This is the second one. So we have done MEASAT 3B. It was in 2014 for the launch. Today it's a new satellite, and we are extremely happy to see this new capacity brought to Malaysia, bringing to connected and unconnected people this additional capacity for safe connectivity in Malaysia. So it's a good,
Thank you very much.
good thing.
And a final question, as to be very fair with people who are watching us, who are looking for Mr. Kim to talk about this hosted payload that was on MEASAT 3D, but you were involved in the project. So can you tell us a bit more about this hosted payload, as we call it, onboarded on MEASAT 3D for Korea?
It's a very innovative payload that we call CAS, for Korean Augmented Satellite Service, that will bring for KTSat, and by the way, for also we are there today, the Space Agency for Korea, the KARI, and for the MOLIT, some augmented capacity, accuracy for navigations in Korea, and it will help a lot for air traffic management, for instance.
Thank you very much for this explanation, François, and congratulations again on this successful launch.
Thank you, and back
to you, Paris.
Thank you, Gregory. And I'm sorry, but since you're doing the job well, we stay with you, and you will present us two other guests. The time you can grab them in the Jupiter room, and you have two more people to present us for the interview.
Here they are.
Yeah, here they are.
Just come here, Mr. Yao.
So yes, Gregory, you can start.
Yes,
we're waiting for you.
Yes, here we are back in Kourou with the successful Malaysian team from MEASAT 3D. So let me please introduce you, and we are very honored to have you with us tonight, sir. Mr. Dato Sri Haji Mohammed bin Mettek, the Secretary General, Ministry of Communications and Multimedia of Malaysia. So good evening, sir.
Good evening, thank you.
You are here with Mr. Yao, Chief Operating Officer with MEASAT. Let me just ask you this simple question. How was the launch for you tonight?
Okay, first of all, congratulations to MEASAT on the successful launch of MEASAT 3D. With the addition of this cutting-edge satellite, Malaysia will be able to enjoy better connectivity, especially in the remote areas. This will improve coverage, which help the nation achieve our goal to closing the digital connectivity gap between Malaysia in rural areas and also in the suburban area. So once again, I would like to congratulate MEASAT for the successful launching of MEASAT 3D today. So congratulations once again to MEASAT.
Thank you very much again, sir. This was another awesome Ariane 5 launch tonight, and I think we can fairly assess that all our guests appreciated it here. So now we are back to you, Emma and Baptiste, and see you next time in Kourou for another successful launch.
Thank you, Gregory. Have
Thank
a great
you, Gregory.
day.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Well, thank you, David.
And with those interviews now complete, we wanted to pause and listen into those. We're going to wrap it up here from the launch pad. This has been our live launch coverage of today's Ariane 5 launch, launching 2 communication satellites, one for India and one for Malaysia, from the French Guiana in northeastern South America. Another successful Ariane 5 launch. As you heard there, we have a Vega rocket launch coming up in July and another Ariane 5 in September. We hope you'll join us for those. But of course, here at the Launchpad, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together, and we bring you full live launch coverage of all the rocket launches from the big and the little companies, along with full press briefings, exclusive one-on-one interviews, and testing coverage and more. And this is going to wrap it up for our live launch coverage today. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage that subscribe button so you never miss another launch. Join us over on Discord for our kind of community post show where we hang out and talk about today's launch. And follow us over on Twitter to never miss space news as it happens. And of course, it's launch day, so you can head on over to our shop, use promo code LAUNCHDAY, and get 10% off of everything in the shop. Global shipping is available. But that's going to do it from here at TLP Network Studios. This is Zach signing off. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.